Hello and welcome back to the Hoops Crush podcast. I actually don't remember what episode this is, but today is pretty much a reunion show. Last week we did not get to record Thanksgiving and I ended up getting sick. There was just a lot going on last week, but I'm glad to finally be back to talk about our 5-12 Portland Trailblazers. And Eric, before we go any further, man, how are you doing?
Oh, pretty good. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was good. Other than obviously getting sick. I
Mhm.
think it was before Thanksgiving, and then it was only a 24-hour bug, thankfully. And then my whole family ended up getting it worse than I did,
Oh,
so
no.
it was a disaster. But
Hope everyone's
Thanksgiving was,
okay now.
yeah, everyone's good now. But man, I was like washing bed sheets every night because of throw
No.
up, and it was a terrible time. But it's all gone now, thankfully, which is why obviously Eric and I did not record it all last week because I had that going on, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yep. Holiday week. Took the week off. It's all good.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's talk about our 5-12 Portland Trailblazers. So obviously, there's a lot of games we did not get to recap last week. We can like just briefly. I can briefly just go ahead and tell you that I think the last game we don't even remember the last game we talked about. That's how long it's been. But I think it was somewhere around the Jazz's in-season tournament game and the Cavs game. But obviously, we end up losing to the Utah Jazz. We lose to the Cavaliers the next night. And then the Lakers Blazers game, I definitely remember watching this game because I fell asleep during it, so I don't even remember the end of it, to be honest with you. And then, as you guys know, or if you don't know, I am banned or League Pass blacks out Thunder, Denver, and Minnesota games, so I can't watch any of those. And honestly,
Oh,
it's
really?
probably, yeah, I can't watch any of their games, which really sucks
That's
because
lame.
I want to watch Minnesota games, Denver games, but I can't, unfortunately. So they're all blacked out. So I just took a break from watching that Thunder Blazers game, and it wasn't a bad game to take a break on. We got absolutely blown out, 134 to
Yeah, that one.
91.
That one is forgettable.
Yeah, so
Even Chauncey burned the tape from that one, he said.
yeah, it was a bad game. And then Suns beat us. It's safe to say we're not going to be going, or we're not going to be going far in the in-season tournament game, unfortunately. Or in-season tournament, we won't be getting to the winning or the main stage. And then you got the Jazz, where we finally get a win. I believe this is the game that Scoot returned, if I'm not mistaken. Is that because Scoot came off the bench? And what I noticed in this game when Scoot first got here, when he first came back, obviously trying to get his teammates involved, only played 17 minutes, but I absolutely loved the ball movement as soon as Scoot comes back. I don't know, it just felt like we were moving the ball more in that game rather than the pass. Am I wrong to think that, or it just felt like when I was watching that we were moving the ball a lot more?
Well, I think a little bit is, Skylar did a pretty good job of setting up the offense and stuff while Scoot was out, but um, Brogden had come back, I think, the game before that, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so yeah, it I think it was more just a product of having actual ball handlers
Yeah,
on the
it
court
probably was.
versus we tried, like, Sharp did his best to run some of the offense, and Skylar, like I said, did a pretty good job of handling that. But it's just a whole new level when you have your main guys back, I think. But yeah,
Yeah,
definitely Scoot. Uh, I, more less so, I guess, in the next few games we'll talk about, but in that game in particular, yeah, he definitely didn't seem like he wanted to shoot that much and was looking to pass.
yeah, definitely. And then we had the Bucks and the Blazers game on a Sunday. This was an early game. I'm gonna be honest with you. I absolutely hate it when there's a game on Sunday because Sundays for me, I watch football all day and I don't care
Yeah.
about anything else. So
Ah.
I didn't have this game on for the most part, and
What?
look, yeah, I
It's
know it's
Dame.
crazy. I know it's crazy. Okay, so here's the story. I didn't have this game on for the most part, but I was, keeping up with it, and it's just because I like sweating my fantasy football league. That's all, basically. But
Okay.
we were up 30 at one point. It felt, or I think, if I'm
I
remember
guess
correctly.
26, I think, was the
Yeah, and
biggest.
so I was like, okay, the game's going well when I'm not watching it. Then Scoot was like 3 of 3 from 3 or something like that. I turned the game on for like, like 5 minutes, and then we just started blowing the lead away. So I was like, okay, I'm turning this game off because I was like superstitious. And then I ended up watching the end of it because it was a really close game, like with like, I don't know, like 4 minutes left or something like that. And yeah, we let the Bucks come back. Damian Lillard had a great game against us, of course. But yeah, Scoot had 13 in this game, I believe. Yeah, Scoot 13 points, Jeremy Grant 22. But yeah, we blew a big lead. Who saw that coming? Giannis and Dame just absolutely, led the troops back on us.
Yeah, another fourth quarter lull for the Blazers where they don't score for several minutes, and It's been a theme in every game they've had a chance to win this year. Uh, but yeah, outside of that game, Scoot comes back, and we've won 2 out of 3 games, but probably should have won all 3 of them. Um, but yeah, that one was disappointing because Dame wasn't playing great, and Scoot has this like step back 3 on him in the corner,
Oh
and
man.
it was fun. Like it was weird watching or playing against Dame, but yeah, I don't know. I really wanted to beat them because like I felt like that would have been a really good win. And the team seemed to be feeling themselves for a while when they were up big. But just a complete meltdown, unfortunately.
Yeah, then I think Dame got like a wide open three at the end or something like that. I was like, "Yep, that's going in," and sure enough, that was
Yeah.
that was what salted away the loss for us, unfortunately, after having a big lead. Now, if this would have been in Portland, I would have made sure I watched this game. But the fact that it was in
Okay.
Milwaukee, I was like, "Okay, it's fine." Even Dame
So
said it felt like just another game, but
so you
uh,
can't watch any of the games, even like road games for those teams?
Denver, Oklahoma City, and Denver, Oklahoma City, and Minnesota. I can't watch
Minnesota.
any of their games at all because the league pass
What?
blacks them all out for me.
That's so
So
weird. Because
whenever
like
we play them, obviously I know I could go illegally stream it, but I hate dealing with those streams, so I don't.
mhm,
I used to, but it's annoying to click. You guys, if you
yeah.
do it, you know what
Yeah,
the
yeah,
deal
yeah.
is with it.
Well, yeah, like, I think in Portland, it's, like, 35 miles within the Portland city limits, like, you get blacked out, but I
I
think
think it's
outside
because
of
I'm
that
like in such a weird area where we don't have a professional team. Like I'm next to obviously those three
well, you
teams
should
in
get them
what
all then.
I know that would be
Do
great,
you
but
so you don't get any of their local feeds either?
no, no.
See, it'd be different if you got their local feed and you could watch games on, like
I could be wrong about that. In the past, I've been able to watch Denver games on their network, Sky Sports, I think is what it
mhm,
is, and I've turned their games on before when I've turned it on before but that was like when I was on my mom's house and she had like other like it was like Dish or something like that. So
yeah,
I don't know if I have it on YouTube TV or not. I definitely
hmm,
need to look into that, but I'm pretty sure I
interesting.
don't. But yeah, it sucks, man. So whenever we play those teams, where I'm not going to be able to watch it most likely. So it's unfortunate because I just hate dealing with those streams.
Yeah,
Even if we were like a really good team, I would probably deal with it. But it's whatever. I'll just take those breaks, I guess. But we did get a win last night against the Indiana Pacers. Halliburton was lighting us up in the first quarter. I mean, the man was just making all kinds of shots. Halliburton is one of my favorite players to watch, and the Pacers are a fun team because of how fast they play. But he lights us up with 33. Scoop with 13 in this game. Sharp got going at first, and then kind of slowed down as the game went on. Jeremy Grant has been pretty amazing, man. 34 points for him on the night. Brogden at the very beginning was upsetting me a little bit. Felt like he was never passing the ball. He was just taking it in, shooting, whatever he wanted to do. It felt like he didn't realize he had teammates on the floor. And then DeAndre Ayton, what a great game from him. DeAndre Ayton's been really good as well. But the main thing that I've been seeing about this game in particular is that possession by Scoot, where he looks like absolutely, or it was when we were on defense and like I don't know. I've seen a bunch of videos where people are calling Scoot a bust or whatever, and that's a topic of conversation. But in this particular game, there was a play where like Scoot looked absolutely lost after the Pacers got an offensive board. Then Obi Toppin like does the most silliest pump fake or acting like he passed, and Scoot just absolutely fell for it, and people are just absolutely dogging on Scoot for it. So that was one thing that I've been seeing a lot about this game. But other than that, we got to win. And Tamani Kamara also. Um, uh, Love Tamani Kamara, man. Just love the
yeah.
way he plays, man. He's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I thought he did a pretty good job in the first quarter on Halliburton, even though he kinda went off. I felt like he didn't get the benefit of some whistles and got some ticky-tacky calls, but, yeah, in terms of Scoot's defense, I think he's actually been better than I thought he'd be on defense, so far. I mean, he's gonna mess up some plays, he's a rookie, but I think if you're just talking about what he's done best so far, it's probably his defense, because his offense is struggling pretty bad, even outside of hitting some threes the last couple games. Are you concerned at all about Scoot long term? Are
No,
you
I'm not. I mean,
completely in the camp of
I know obviously the popular opinion right now is he's a bust. That's what people want to see. Negativity is something a lot of people feed off of. But I usually don't go too crazy. Like even like Bryce Young in Carolina right now. Like obviously that looks terrible right now. But I'm not over here saying, okay, the Panthers, Stroud looks much better. It's just another example. Like you shouldn't overreact to certain players blossom at later times. And maybe if this was like year 3 and this was still the case, obviously go ahead and say that, but it's only year 1. I'm not too panicked by it. I think eventually he'll be fine. I mean, we at least got to hope for it, right? And he also was like blowing some layups that I feel like he could have made in this game and in past games as well. So I think his box score numbers would look a lot better, obviously, if he was just able to hit some of his layups and miss some pretty easy ones, in my opinion. But I'm not concerned with Scoot long term. Not yet, at least. And I don't think I will be this whole season. If he plays like this whole season, which I don't expect him to, I'm not gonna like overly panic and be like, "Oh my gosh, we made a mistake." Like, it's just be patient. I mean, we're not even trying to be. I mean, I don't. I guess Cronin and them thought maybe they could be good this year, but I mean, it's not that big of a deal to me, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do get a little concerned about some of his just I don't know, he seems a lot more awkward on the court than I thought he'd look this year. Everything seems a little clunky, like he doesn't it feels like the ball isn't comfortable in his hands when he's dribbling. He he dribbles like high a lot or it like gets caught in his hand a lot and um he teeters on the edge of double dribbling or traveling a lot, it seems like, or not knowing where to go with his dribble. And then his finishing has just been abysmal this year, which I was really hoping that was something that would be, at least average to slightly above average right away in the NBA. But the good thing is a lot of those things are fixable if he puts in the work. So as long as he remains dedicated to basketball and wants to get better, I'm not too concerned about it. But he does look a lot worse as like just a facilitator slash just setting up the offense. It just seems really um, he just seems out of sorts a lot when he has the ball, and that didn't I didn't ever think I would be saying that about him this year. I thought we'd maybe be talking about how his lack of outside shot leads to defenses playing off of him so he can't drive as much. But he just hasn't found a way to use his athleticism and the good parts of his game to impact the flow of games too much yet. Um, and hopefully that'll change soon.
Yeah, I mean, the finishing's got to change. Obviously, his numbers right now aren't great at all. We pretty much just have to hope that this is not gonna. I mean, the game just seems really fast for him, as you're saying.
Right.
That is something that I didn't even know that. Yeah, definitely, it does look clunky right now for him. He just does not look comfortable, which is obviously something nobody really expected. He was a generational prospect. At least we thought he'd be somewhat decent right now, and it just isn't that at the moment. Even Joe Cronin said he wasn't a normal 19-year-old, and so far, I mean, it would have been absolutely funny if we still had Damian Lillard and this was Dame's help right now with Scoot. I don't know
Right.
if maybe it would have looked different, but like it right now, it's not great. It doesn't look good. We just have to hope that the game is going to slow down for him, which I fully expect it to. At least I hope so. I'm holding optimism that this isn't going to be the Scoot we see all season, and eventually things are going to slow down for him, and he'll be a lot better, hopefully.
Yeah, his whole game is kind of based on uh not to steal DeAndre's nickname, but dominating, like he's got the overly determined to dominate thing trademarked and stuff. And um so yeah, it's just weird because that's like he just had so much like swag on the court prior to the NBA. And it seemed like he was just so like confident and cocky and stuff, not necessarily in a bad way or anything, just like really I don't know, like his whole vibe and energy and stuff seemed infectious. And I'm having trouble figuring out why that's not like showing itself in the NBA yet, and why it's not rubbing off on teammates and stuff like that, like it has for him in the past. But hopefully, it's just being a rookie and he's learning how to do that. And like you said, the game definitely seems uh, like it's moving too fast for him right now. So if it ever clicks and it slows down for him, I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, that absolutely is true. Something that I didn't even think about with this offseason. It felt like he said all the right things. He seems overly confident that he was going to be ready right away. And this, as you said, the swag was here. And even in the summer league, some of his interviews and just every time I heard him talk, it just like, yeah, this guy is an absolute dog. And
Hmm.
so far, it has not showed at all. And it's just been disappointing to watch, which is why obviously he is getting the bust label at the moment. People love to overreact, and that it tends to happen. I'm not willing to go that far at all yet. I will not go that far at all this season.
Yeah.
We just gotta hope things turn around for him,
Hmm.
and we'll
Well,
be fine.
he got hurt too, so he's
Yeah,
still
that didn't help, of course, with the
yeah.
ankle injury. But
Yeah, and it was hurt this summer. Hopefully, that's not a theme that was like
oh
constantly
man,
hurt or anything. But knowing the Blazers, not go, he's going to be cursed. But no, I think as long as he's healthy and he gets reps the rest of the season, knows what he has to work on next summer to come in and be better next year. Yeah, I'm not worried about it this year either.
so going forward, what is? I mean, I think I asked you this a couple weeks ago. With Anthony Simons maybe eventually coming back, do you think this team is about to maybe turn things around this season, or do you think we're still just gonna be like a bottom dweller? Because obviously, it's gonna be interesting to see what this team looks like. Because our best player went down first game of the season, so we haven't really fully got what we wanted to see. Do you think there's a world where we turn this train around and go on maybe a win streak when Simons comes back? Obviously, maybe not right away when he gets reps in, gets obviously slowly put in on in minutes. What do you think? Do you think we could turn this season around?
Well, we played a lot of close games. There's been several games that we should have won. So if we had like one more good player in some of those, you think maybe those would turn into W's. Um, so it's certainly possible. We're not too far out of the play-in. I think it's like 3 games or something at this point. So yeah, anything is possible. Uh, I just I'm really curious to see what happens between now and February 8th, I think is the trade deadline. Because I think well, I'm hoping that the outcomes of the games between now and then aren't the deciding factor on roster moves. I hope they have a long-term mindset when it comes to that. And so but I could definitely see them we've seen it before, like without Dame, the 4-game win streak a couple of years ago, right before the trade deadline, and it affects how this team views the future and stuff. And they talk about in the offseason about, well, if we just play like those 4 games. So I could definitely see them once Anthony comes back going on a little run. Aiton's been hot shooting the ball. Um, the defense has been okay, like decent outside of probably the Thunder game wasn't good, but outside of that, I think the defense has been much improved, and they got some role players that are playing well, and then you get a dynamic scorer like Anthony back. That's one of their big problems outside the last couple games has been their 3-point shooting all year. So you get one of the better shooters in the league back and someone who can run the offense. You talked about how it looked like the offense was much better once Scoot came back. So getting Anthony back, I think, will also give us one more guy that can just create and score. And um, you and I both thought Anthony was going to break out this year, so it's such a shame that he got hurt in the first game. But I still think he's going to at this point. And so yeah, I do think they can win some games. Whether it's enough to like make a run and get to the playoffs and stuff, I don't know. I'd like to see that when I believe that when I see it, but I definitely think they'll be really competitive the rest of the season once he's back.
Yeah, absolutely. I miss Anthony Simons really badly. I'm not even sure if I totally want to go on a win streak. I think it's probably
Right.
better long term if we're in the lottery. It sucks, obviously, to watch a rebuilding team, but it's probably for the best to get a lottery pick this offseason. I know this draft class isn't labeled that great, but still, you mean we can maybe hit on someone in the draft, hopefully, anyway. But other than that, as you were kind of hinting at the trade deadline, yeah, this team it better have a plan at the trade deadline because if there's one guy that absolutely, like, in my opinion, 100% needs to be moved, he does not need to be on this team after the trade deadline. To me, it's Malcolm Brogdon. I don't think he makes any sense to stay on this team. He's actually been really good this season, and this would be the peak of his value right now. As long as obviously he stays healthy until then, I think it is in our best interest to move him as soon as possible. If that's at the deadline, that's totally fine. But there's no reason to keep him past the deadline, in my opinion. There's just no way, unless they think maybe if I don't know if like Scoot not playing well might change their mind. They might want to keep him. I don't know if that's gonna affect things. But there's plenty of time left to see if things turn around there. But Brogdon. And then maybe even Thibault, because Thibault has been really good this season as well from shooting from three, which is something that's always been a problem with him. But since he's got to Portland, been pretty solid.
Creeping that value up.
Yeah, so the value of those two guys to me is pretty decent right now, and they should absolutely 100% take advantage of that, and there's no reason not to.
Yeah, for me with Brogdon, it's just I having 4 guards, like, it's nice if one of them gets hurt to have 3 good ones, and if you don't have 4 and then 2 get hurt like we had earlier in the season, then it looks really clunky. Or actually, we had 3 of the 4 hurt, right, at one point. So that was really bad, but, like, you can't really factor that in, I think, in your long-term plan. So if someone gets hurt between Scoot, Sharp, and Ant again this season and is out for the rest of the season or something like Robert Williams, then I could understand maybe keeping him and then trading him in the offseason. But then, like, what are you doing? Like, if one of those guys gets hurt, we're probably not making a run. So you might as well get value out of him and just play the other guys 35, 36 minutes a game. So yeah, it's always been for me with Brogdon. Like, he's a guy that I wanted for a long time with Dame on the team, just as like a guy off the bench or like a third guard. But it just doesn't make sense to have a fourth guard that is as good as him. I don't mind having a vet that can play a little bit, but just not someone who can play like 30 plus minutes a game and still is really good the way he is. I think that's more valuable as a trade asset than to the team moving forward. And then you turn the keys over to Anthony and Scoot and Sharp at the guard positions and just see what they can do the rest of the season. So I 100% agree that um, as much as I like Brogdon, he's pretty much has to be traded.
What about Jeremy Grant? Because Grant's been really good this season. There is a lot of reasons to potentially keep him because he's a great player, and there's a lot of reasons that maybe his value. And obviously, people talk about how bad his contract is. Not really sure where you fall on that, but I mean, obviously, it was a overpay at the time, but he's been good this season, and I think there could be some value there as well with Jeremy Grant. But I could understand. I wouldn't be as upset with them if they decided not to move him. If they kept him around, I wouldn't hate it. But if like the Brogdon would be the one I'd be very mad about. Thibault would somewhat understand if we kept him too. And then Grant, I would understand. But yeah, Grant, what do you think about Grant? Do we move him potentially?
I think you play it like you're not going to move him, and then hopefully use that as leverage to like get a team to overbid for him. And if that's the case, I think you still have to move him because I don't know. He's been really good, but like when Scoot and Sharp and stuff are in their primes, he's going to be in his mid 30s, and uh, I mean he still would be a solid role player at that time. But I mean, players like that making 30 plus million um, when you have a younger core, I think at some point you don't want to get stuck with that contract, like you said. I don't think it's like negative or anything, but I do think if you get a a very good package with a couple of good assets and can get out of that money long term, I think you have to consider it. I don't know what's the cutoff for you for that asset package being worth it.
I would say, I mean, based off how he's playing this season, maybe I would love if we got two firsts. Like,
Mm,
that'd be amazing. I don't know what his trade value is around the league. Obviously, we don't really know some guys' trade value until it happens. I mean,
yeah,
Gobert is always the perfect example. Nobody would have thought that. So we traded two firsts for Covington at one point. So like, I mean, I don't think it's too out of the realm of possibility to get like two firsts for him, but I would be happy if we got one first round pick as long as it's unprotected. I don't want like a protected first. A team I would love to see him on personally is Sacramento. I kind of wanted them. Well, I wanted Grant back, but if Grant would have went anywhere and the Kings had some cap space before they obviously brought Barnes back, and I'm not even sure if the Kings would have like anything to evaluate. I know they would have to probably have Barnes' contract in there, but I don't know exactly what else they could have thrown in there at the top of my head. But I think Grant and Sacramento would be a lot of fun for them. But yeah, I think the cutoff for me is at least one unprotected first. But I would love if two firsts were on the table, and I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility.
yeah. I think Sacramento is a good spot for him. I think him and Sabonis would be a good um, 4-5 combo because Sabonis is a really good rebounder, so it kind of makes up for some of Jeremy's lack of rebounding. But Sabonis can also pass, so he can kick out. Jeremy's been shooting the ball great from three, especially lately, which we'll get to in the Who's Crushing It segment. But yeah, I think that's a really good landing spot. I think there's a lot of good landing spots for
Oh yeah,
Jeremy, though.
he fits in a
Uh,
lot of places.
yeah, I think I think he'd be good on the Lakers. I think he'd be good on the 76ers. We've talked about 76ers a lot in the past. Not sure what they're going to do there. I think he'd be good on like the Heat too, but Brogden as well. But who knows if the Heat are going to be willing
Yeah.
to deal with the Blazers or what the story is there. But yeah, there's a lot of teams, and that's why I think in the end, if you get to first and like an expiring contract and maybe a young player on the rookie deal, similar to how you picked up Tamani Kamara in the Nurkic part of that trade. Like I think that's pretty good value. So you add another young player, and then you get a couple first. If you can get an unprotected first in like 2029 or somewhere in the future, 2029 in particular, because the more protected picks we have that year, the better chance we have of one of those at least panning out to be a really high pick. So yeah, just load up on that draft, and I think the Lakers could still do that, and LeBron would be in his mid 40s by then. So I think those are the kind of moves that might not help you anytime like the next couple of years, but if you're talking about rebuilding the right way and setting yourselves up for the best possible chance to make a run when the younger guys hit their prime, I think you pretty much have to if those offers are on the table. Now, if there's like a protected first and a bad contract or something is the best offer for Jeremy, I think you're fine keeping him and playing it out through maybe next season even or maybe look to deal him at the draft or in the offseason this year.
Couldn't agree more with everything you just said there. Is there anything else you want to talk about Blazers related before we move on to the next segment?
Well, they didn't make the in-season tournament, and so they
Yeah.
have two consolation games or whatever, and those are against the Warriors and the who's the other team? It was the Warriors and the Mavericks. So two pretty tough games that they got added to their schedule, unfortunately. But the Warriors pick though is
It's looking good
still in the
right now.
lottery right now,
Yeah.
so that's one of those games where you win or you lose. It helps you either way. So yeah, hopefully they continue to be mid and don't make the playoffs, but don't be so bad that their pick rises up. Because it would be really nice to have a really high or two really high picks this draft.
And that's top. Where is this top three protected, right?
It's
Or
top four.
top
Yeah.
4. Okay.
But unlike the like when we didn't get the New Orleans pick and it switched to a Milwaukee 2025 or whatever, this one just goes to next year and it's only top 1 protected next
Oh
year. So
wow,
even
I didn't even know that detail. That's a beauty.
yeah, so even if they move up this year, we pretty much guaranteed to get it next year. And if it happens to be 1 next year, it's unprotected in 2026. So it's not like it's oh man, if they get up into the top 4, it's gone forever or anything. It might actually work out better if it doesn't. So yeah, either way, I think we're pretty good shape with that pick considering they haven't been good this year.
Yeah, that's something I didn't even realize what that would convey to if back-to-back years they do somehow get top 4 then number 1. The Warriors, I think a lot of things would have to go wrong for the Warriors for that to happen, but
Right.
this year so far is not going very well for them. Draymond had a terrible turnover last night for them down the stretch. But other than that, opposite of what Draymond did last night, we got to talk about the who's crushing it.
Hmm.
And my first one is he is a rookie, technically. Obviously, he got hurt last year.
Yeah.
Mr. Chet Holmgren on the Oklahoma City Thunder has been absolutely phenomenal for them. 18 points per game on the season so far. It was funny because the other night, actually, I had I had an over. It was probably a week ago or whatever, but I had an over on Chet Holmgren over 1.5 threes, and he only had hit 1 all game. And then that buzzer beater that he hit, I think, to force overtime,
Yeah.
was the last one he hit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he hit the over. So I got to thank Chet for that. But he has been absolutely great for the Thunder. And I don't know. I mean, do you think right now he's the leader for the Rookie of the Year race based off how bad the Spurs have been? Or do you think Vic still gets it no matter what?
I think as long as Wemby plays the whole year, he's just the hype train around him is going to be tough to overcome. And then there are a few people that might not vote for Chet just because he had a whole year to learn the NBA and be around the team and stuff. So I do think Wemby will get a little bit of um, bonus points there just because some people look back to that Ben Simmons. I think it was Ben Simmons, Donovan Mitchell, was it
Yeah.
where Ben Simmons won, but he had not played um, the same similar situation. So, uh, yeah, there's always narratives like that when there's voting, um, since it's human voting. There's always going to be bias and stuff. So it's hard to tell who's ahead right now. But I mean, if you just look at impact on winning, it's more of a most valuable thing, not a rookie thing. But it's definitely Chet so far. He's been awesome, and yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty exciting race as long as those two both stay healthy. I think either one could win at this point.
Yeah, and did you know that I don't know if you ended up seeing this, but when we made our predictions on that show at the very beginning, I was the only one. I was on a Chet Island, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
nice.
I don't know if it's gonna work out for me, but that'd be
Yeah,
awesome if it did.
I
So
mean, looking pretty good right now.
everyone chose Victor Wembanyama other than me, which I was surprised by. I thought a couple people would agree with me, but no one did. So we'll
Hmm.
see what happens though. Who's your first pick?
My first one is Kyle Kuzma. Um, he's the last 7 games averaging 22.4 points, 7.3 assists as a forward. That's really nice. Something to see him develop his passing a lot over the years. And the Wizards suck, but I feel like he's been a bright spot. And I don't know if he'll get traded or not this year, but he's definitely um, getting that trade value up and a team that's in need of a forward. That might be some competition for the Jeremy Grant trade. Is that Kuzma could be sitting there maybe a little cheaper in terms of contract wise um, option for teams. So just someone to look forward to see how he's doing the rest of the season.
My second one is someone who we're very familiar with. Spent his, a lot of his career in Portland, and that is Mr. Dame Dollar, Damian Lillard. The Bucks are
Coming around.
yeah, the Bucks are starting to click, and Dame in particular at the very beginning seemed like he was a little uncomfortable in Milwaukee's offense, and now he's been really good, averaging 26 points per game so far this season. And I think the last game he's averaged like over 30 points per game. Him and Giannis are really starting to click. 32 points, 31 points, 27 and 30 are the last 4 box scores as far as points. And he's getting teammates involved with 9 assists, 10 assists, which is obviously something we've known that Dame can do, but a lot of people like discredit his playmaking and don't think he's gets people involved. He doesn't make teammates better. We've heard that argument a lot. So, but yeah, Dame has been really good. He was very good last night against Miami. Like Dame's been turning things around in Milwaukee. When a lot of people were, overreacting about him at the start of the season.
Yeah, you could tell he was being a little passive. But when it comes crunch time, man, Milwaukee's needed that. I saw some things about the game against the Heat where people were saying it was like a very similar situation to I think game 4 in the playoffs where the Bucks just could not get a bucket down the stretch and end up losing a game, and Dame changes that for them, that dynamic. He makes it so they always have that go-to weapon in the clutch time where he can take over a game and create a basket for him. And you know, if Giannis tries to do it, I mean, Giannis is great, but like a lot of times teams will foul him and make him earn at the free throw line, stuff like that. You can't do that with Dame. You have to try to keep him off the foul line. So I think that's in the end going to be uh, the greatest boost for Milwaukee with Dame is just having him in the crunch time to kind of lead that team and be that main guy who can get a bucket in a close game.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, my next guy is Devin Booker. Probably too good, and once again to be on this, but I just want to point out that he's averaging 8.4 assists per game. There were a lot of question marks for the Suns coming into the season, not having a true point guard. Could Devin Booker do it full time? I think he's proving that he can. Um, and while averaging 28.9 points per game over his last 7 as well, almost 5 rebounds per game, and also had a game-winning shot against the Knicks the other night, which was nice. So yeah, Devin Booker playing really well for the Suns.
Also had a great interview when they told him a lot of people said you couldn't play point guard or whatever. What do you say to people like that? He said, I don't talk to them. So Devin Booker, yeah, he's been great for the Suns. They're on a 7-game win streak right now as well, 11-6. Did Bill Booker and Durant play together yet? I don't think they did, right? Or was it one game?
No, Beal was supposed to
And then
play,
they
and then they
said,
scratched him at the last minute,
yeah,
and then
so
that he was ruled out for a couple weeks. So yeah, I don't even think they played together yet.
which is
So
pretty insane to think about with how
mhm.
long, we're 17 games in the season or they've played 17 games. So it's pretty crazy that they don't even have Beal yet, and they're really good, which isn't too surprising. They're
Ended up sneaking into the midseason tournament too.
yeah, they have Durant, Booker. It's not a too surprise, but I only had 2, so I don't know if you have any more.
Yeah, my last one is Trae Young. Also, last 7 games, 27 points per game, 10.6 assists, and is shooting 42.4% from 3. Just playing, shooting the ball well, which is always the key for him. But yeah, just been pretty good last few games.
I wanted to ask you so far into this season. I don't know if you need to pull the standings up for this, but I didn't know is there anything that's surprising to you so far as like any team around the league? Like, are you surprised that they're this good, or were you expecting it? Like, is there any team that stands out to you right now? Because I'm curious to see if there is something at the top of your head, or if you have anybody.
Um, See, there's teams like the Magic and the Pacers that are really good, but that doesn't necessarily surprise me that
Yeah,
much
me either.
because like I thought there was a chance they could be good. Not that I expect them to both be this good, but like um yeah, I don't know if that necessarily surprised me. Milwaukee struggling, Dame, struggling a little bit, surprised me. Um Philadelphia being as good as they've been without Harden, that kind of surprised me a little bit. Um, in the negative way, I guess I've been really surprised at how bad or how like kind of mediocre Cleveland's been. Um, trying to think who else.
Mine is the
They,
Grizzlies. I'm surprised at how bad they
uh,
are. I know they're without
yeah,
Ja Morant, but they had a good record without him, and they had Smart now. So I'm really surprised that they're this bad. To be honest with you, I did not expect that. That was something
yeah.
I did not see coming. So that's one.
Smart got hurt too, but
Yeah.
yeah, they just have to find a way. I think they have like 9 games or so until Jaws back. So they just have to find a way to make it until then. But man, that team just gets snake bitten with injuries as well. Or and stupidity. um the other team that's just really boggling to me is the Clippers.
Oh
Uh
yeah.
they haven't had injury problems this year. They lose the other night to Reggie Jackson and DeAndre Jordan killed them. Like speaking of who's crushing it, man, like those two just like took over the game and like I was like, is this like 2017 or something? Like what the heck is going on here? Um,
Revenge
so yeah,
game for both of them, I
yeah,
guess.
just not that I thought like Harden was like the perfect person for them, but I mean, you still got Kawhi and Paul George playing. It's not like they're sitting out games or been hurt or anything yet. So I I, I just find it hard to believe that they're struggling so bad without injuries being the reason. And also the Warriors. I mean, I know Draymond was out a little bit. Um, Curry missed a couple games, but you never think they're going to be under 500 almost 20 games into the season either.
Yeah. I can't remember exactly what it was, but when I was making my picks against the spread when last time we did it, before the Jokic news, I sent my pick in, and I forgot. Forgot what the spread was when Jokic was still, obviously before that news came out. But I'm glad I doubled down on that game, and it would have been the wrong one. I forgot what the spread was, but I ended up changing it in the stream, and I'm so glad I did because I think
Nice.
Denver was obviously. I think the Clippers line went like to them obviously, but I was
Mhm.
like, for whatever reason, I just feel like the Nuggets are going to keep this game close because the Clippers just aren't very good. And
Yeah.
sure enough, that was the case, and they even won the game.
Mhm.
Yeah, the Clippers, obviously, that has been surprising as well. I'm also surprised on how. I guess it's not like too surprising, but I'm kind of surprised that the Pistons are so bad. Like, I knew
Yeah.
they'd be bad, but like 14 game losing streak is not something I saw coming at all. I thought they'd be a little bit better with Cade coming back. And Monty Williams is the coach now. I know they've not had
Mhm.
Bojan all season, but I'm a little surprised on how bad they've been. And again, I wasn't expecting to be like a playoff team by any means,
No.
but I thought they'd be a little bit better.
Yeah, not
But
13 losses in a row or whatever it is.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
14 now, which is pretty
14,
crazy.
yeah.
Uh,
Um,
yeah,
one
that's
thing with
crazy.
them, I don't know if you saw the report today, but apparently there was some report that they turned down 2 first-round picks last year at the trade deadline for Bogdanovich.
I saw that, and they're absolutely insane if that's true.
Yeah.
Like, how do you not take that? What they get? I don't even think they gave up much to get him. Like, it was like a Linux and I don't even know if there was a pick in that trade. I don't even remember, but I know it wasn't like anything crazy, and I don't know
Mhm.
why that's not something they decided to do. If that news is true,
Yeah. Even if they're, like, lottery protected first, that's still I think you gotta take that, man. I don't like, if
especially
we're
with
talking about this with some of our players that we turned down to first round picks, if we're talking about this like a year from now, did you hear that report today that we turned down 2 firsts for Malcolm Brogdon or something? Like, I'm gonna I'm gonna be livid, man.
yeah, I would be pretty upset if I was a Pistons fan as well, especially since they've been starting to start Thompson this season, and I don't know what their lineup will look like when Bojan is back. But
Mhm.
yeah, that's just it's a head scratcher for me on why they wouldn't take that if that is true.
Yeah. Well, Thompson's been great.
Yeah, he's been a
I've
lot of
enjoyed
fun.
watching him play.
But other than that, I think we can move on to the next thing if you had something else to add. But I just wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't talk about Blazers. Well, we did earlier, but Brogdon, since he came back 4 games, averaging over 20 points per game, 8 assists, and shooting 42.1% from three. Jeremy Grant, his last 7 games, 23.9 points per game, and shooting 51.2% from three. So
Dang.
I think those are the two Blazers that are crushing it lately.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback off those because I mean those guys have been really good. Obviously, Brogden kind of expected. Grant, he's got a lot of shots and freedom on this team, and he's been phenomenal with them, which is great. Because at least we're not watching Grant play horrible every night. At least it's good. So, because obviously we're gonna have to watch a lot of him this year.
Yeah.
But I think that's gonna do it. Unless if you had any prospect watch today, or
Yeah. Do you want HoopsJock's prospect of the week? Let's go.
Let's get it.
So this week, so we're just gonna start off with some of the big hitters. So we did Alex Sarr last time. This time, this is a guy who's risen up to number one on a lot of people's draft boards. Maybe not on the Blazers draft board, but it's Isaiah Collier from USC. He's listed at 6'3". He's probably more like 6'1", 6'2". But just true lead guard. I kind of get Donovan Mitchell / Jaden Ivey vibes from him. In college at least. Great playmaker, pretty good vision, has strength to get into the lane, finishes well around the rim, gets to the rim with ease, kind of uses the strength a little too much sometimes, gets in trouble with some offensive fouls for pushing off, but just kind of when I watched him is like kind of like what I was hoping Scoot would be this year. And there he did have one of his biggest question marks was his outside shooting, whether he could become a dependable outside shooter. So far, he's shooting over 41% from three in college. So that seems to be a question he has answered and worked hard on. His form looks pretty good. But yeah, just a guy who's making plays, scoring the ball, and doing a really nice job for USC right off the bat as a freshman.
Suck at ball for Isaiah Collier. I don't know.
You're gonna have to work on that one, man.
Yeah, I couldn't think of a good one. But it's funny because I actually draft Isaiah Collier a lot in the draft class that I use in 2K. Even drafted him in today's video for that 10-year rebuild, and he was like basically the guy I built the team around. So yeah, I'm very familiar with him, at least in 2K. So I'm happy to hear he's on your watch list because I tend to draft him a lot because he develops like crazy in that draft class that I use. So I always find myself drafting him.
So, all right, before I get to my question, so check out, he's talking about Crushables, the channel on YouTube here. Go check that out, please. It's a great channel if you like rebuilds and stuff like that, 2K stuff. So go check out Crushables on YouTube, please. And then also, check out Blazers Uprise as well. Do post games after every game. And then, so my question for you is, you know how Cronin, and this should be pretty much every GM's philosophy, and you do a lot of rebuilds, so this probably comes up a lot. What do you do if you have a pick? It doesn't even have to be the first pick. It could be second or third or fourth or whatever. And by far the best player on your board is a guy like Isaiah Collier, and you're the Blazers. What do you do? Do you just draft the best player and just make it work? Maybe trade someone? Or like at some point you can't just keep drafting guards, but also you can't pass up on the best player on your board if he's the best player, right? So what do you do in that situation?
I guess it depends on if Scoot turns things around this season, but maybe we could Josh Rosen him, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, man.
No, I'm just kidding.
No.
If you'd watch,
don't put that into existence, man.
Yeah, if you watch football, you know what I'm talking about. But I cannot. If we draft another guard, like that would just be absolutely insane. I don't know if you could do that. Like it's almost like when the Warriors, obviously LaMelo Ball. Well, I mean James Wiseman was supposed to be a good prospect, but LaMelo Ball was clearly the better player in a lot of people's opinions. But the Warriors just didn't think LaMelo made sense in their team. So
or didn't want to deal with his dad.
yeah, that too. I guess his dad was, which his dad.
Although he hasn't been a problem in Charlotte.
Yeah, I'm about to say I haven't heard anything about his dad in a long time, but yeah, I can't, man. Like, draft someone else. I don't care. Trade down if you need to. Like,
right.
do not draft another guard unless, if like I said, you're gonna do that. Draft, obviously Cardinals trade Josh Rosen and draft, or they draft Kyler Murray. The very next year after draft Rosen. But yeah, I hope we don't end up doing that. Like, that would suck.
It's about talent acquisition, though. You gotta get the best talent and figure it out later. That's what Cronin said, man.
At some point, it needs to stop. We can't keep drafting guards and thinking it's gonna work.
But we have possibly another pick around 10 or so right now. So
yeah,
we can draft our forwards there, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then also not work out anybody at that pick and just draft whoever. And say, hey, we had Keegan Murray as a lottery pick or whatever, and I don't know.
Chris Murray.
Or sorry, Chris Murray, not Keegan Murray.
Keegan Murray would have been a lottery pick.
Yeah, Keegan Murray, absolutely, my bad.
Yeah, I'm almost kind of hoping to not be put in that position because, like, if we got number 1 and Collier's like on everyone's board as the number 1 pick, like, yeah, I pretty much either have to trade it or you have to trade Scoot, right? Like, there's no real alternative there. Just finally run out that 4-guard lineup or something. I don't know.
Or trade Simons and just draft Collier and have Scoot, Sharp, and Collier. I don't know, man. Like, yeah, I hope we're not in that position either. But is there anything else you want to add before we sign off on this one?
No, just the Blazers have. Well, it'll be tonight. Who are they playing tonight?
Cavs.
The Cavs tonight in Cleveland. And then, yeah, so that should be a good game, good test of where they're at. Cleveland has not been playing well this year, like I said a few minutes ago. So hopefully they can have another strong showing, and hopefully Scoot looks good again this game. It'd be nice to see him continue to pile up good performances.
All right, boys. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you are new to this channel. But that's going to do it for us this week on this episode. Thank you guys for watching. This has been Hoops Crush. Go Blazers.